there's nothing I could have said in that moment where all these people that wanted my job would have been like, oh, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you tweet an apology, that's not going to do anything.
No.
They're going to just rip it apart.
You're fucking bullies. You're bully.
Yeah.
I want another apology. That apology. You didn't mean that apology. I'm like, I didn't mean the joke either, motherfucker. Like, How come you're not mad about that?
And all these other people are calling me going, are you going to apologize? Are you going to make a video? Are you going to write a statement? Are you going to have your agent write a statement?
They want an apology. Why aren't you coming on here and defending your joke? Like, why don't you say
I'll never apologize for a joke.
But you're apologizing for like upsetting people who didn't deserve to be upset.
So what to do about that, I have no idea, although apologizing is a bad idea.
Yeah, absolutely not. I'll never apologize for a joke, ever.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. All right, so as you saw by the title, I want to take a deep dive into an interesting phenomenon that I keep seeing more and more recently. I see people demanding an apology of comedians, and quite frankly, it made me wonder, what is the correct response when you're demanded to apologize to somebody? Does it actually make a difference if you go ahead and apologize, or does it perhaps make the situation worse? So the first incident that I wanted to take a look at involves Matt Rife and an opening joke to his most recent Netflix special. It seems to be getting a lot of controversy, and a whole bunch of people demanded a retraction, an apology from him. So let's go ahead and dive right in.
Netflix just released a comedy special featuring Matt Rife, and one of the opening jokes he makes is a bit insensitive.
I've only been to Baltimore one time. I ate lunch there, and the hostess who seats you at the restaurant had a black eye. A full black eye. And it wasn't like, what happened? It was pretty obvious what happened. And we couldn't get over the fact that we're like, this is the face of the company? Like, this is who you have greeting people? And my boy who I was with was like, yeah, I feel bad for her, man. I feel like they should put her in the kitchen or something where nobody has to see her face, I was like, yeah, but I feel like if she could cook, she wouldn't have that black eye.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's not the greatest joke. It's a bit hack, but the way that people are kind of representing this joke seemed a little unfair to me.
Thank you. Wow. Thank you. It is so great to be here. Thank you for coming. Domestic violence. That's my time. I'll be here all week. What? I will not be here all week. I've been asked to leave.
Okay, so that's one person's attempt at explaining this kind of joke. But granted, she's not a comedian. So how would a comedian kind of describe this type of joke? I think it's worth checking that out.
So my lady loves to cook. She just bought a slow cooker. Woo! Better than the old name, Tard Cooker. But put that in my act. But that's the old term. But this thing's great. You come home and the thing's steaming. You can smell like, she's got a minestrone going. Oh, there's a beef chili going, and it's so exciting.
Chili, that's the good.
Chili's good.
The only problem is you got in this fast-paced world. I'm like, how long till the chili? She's like, you need another 3 hours. I'm like, God damn, I get the whole black eye thing. That's a Matt Rife joke. Can you believe how much trouble he got in for that?
Yeah. I'm going to show a bit of the criticism that he's gotten, but this is a drop in the bucket. There are so many people going after him and just, totally lambasting his entire character and saying that he is completely turned on his fan base.
Not only is the joke in poor taste, but given the fact that his audience is mostly female and his success on social media is mostly thanks to his female audience, there was some backlash.
I watched the first 3 minutes of the Matt Rife comedy special on Netflix and turned it off.
So many people have dark humor mixed up. Dark humor is when you make a funny joke about something unfortunate that you have experienced, not other people's experience.
A comedian ruining his relationship with a large portion of his fan base because he wanted to be like all the other boring-ass Netflix special, you can't tell a joke anymore crowd is actually just depressing.
That's just a taste of the criticism that he got. But he has always kind of had this hardline stance that he is going to be himself. He is not going to bow down to this crowd. It's a bit disingenuous to say that, he is now turning on his female crowd, because he has kind of a throwaway, old-timey, I don't know exactly what you'd call it, but kind of a hack joke that, we've all heard a variation on before. I don't know. That's putting an awful lot of power in one joke.
Things I say on stage, if that upsets people, imagine what I say off stage. That'll be clipped out of context for sure. Can't wait.
Imagine.
Yeah, dude, if you think what I joke about now is offensive, cancel me and let me lose everything. Yeah, let me have nothing to lose. Imagine the jokes I'll tell then. It's like
almost
I said,
the best spot to be in.
Rock bottom? Absolutely. Yeah.
So because Matt Rife has always had this kind of hardline stance that, he is going to champion comedy. He is going to not apologize for a joke. When he made a certain post online, it really seemed to draw some people in.
Matt responded to the criticism with a leveled, thought-out, heartfelt statement. Just kidding, he posted this.
If you've ever been offended by a joke I've told, here's a link to my official apology. And the link is to Special Needs Helmet.
Okay, so now
The fact that he's a comedian and he makes a post to Instagram saying, tap here to solve all your problems, that wasn't, a tip off to these people looking for a sincere apology that, maybe this comedian is pulling a little prank on you. But yeah, this really seemed to trigger a whole lot of people. So Matt Rife did make kind of a little bit of a press tour explaining the situation, and he just happened to stop by and talk to Jordan B. Peterson.
Now, you're a comedian and you got canceled for a domestic assault joke. And then in response to that, instead of apologizing like a good boy, you put up a joke ad site about special needs helmets. And now, to get yourself out of trouble, you're going to come on my podcast.
I never
That's
said
your
that.
plan.
I was hoping it would make things way worse. I'm hoping we can drive sales to that very real website about the helmets.
When this blew up around you, why did you decide to take the strategy that you took? Why weren't you racked with guilt and apologetic? And
because it's just comedy. I'm just doing what's funny to me. It's never any deeper than that, nor should it be for anybody. I'm saying things that my imagination drums up, that makes me happy, release endorphins in my head, that makes my life happier. And all I do is share those thoughts with other people in hopes that it makes their life easier.
That's a pretty interesting thought and explanation of what Matt Rife is actually doing here, why he chose to, double down on this route, that, these aren't things that are meant to be taken seriously. He's not championing for people following through with what he's saying. He's telling a joke. He's trying to make people laugh. And that does seem like a novel idea for some. But please bear with me. I know some people here might not be enjoying Jordan Peterson, but he does make a bunch of really interesting points. There's just going to be a few more clips.
Whether you enjoy what I do or not, you don't even have to know it exists. If I'm your problem, if you and I are face to face and you have a problem with my comedy that I tell, that I admit to the world, right? If you just remove yourself from me, if you do something as simple as just turn around, there is an entire planet behind you for you to go explore and live the rest of your life. You don't ever have to think about me. You don't have to talk about me. I don't like screamo heavy metal music. Guess how often I think about it or talk about it? 0% of the time. You just remove yourself from the situation. I see no harm in trying to make people laugh as a general intention.
So I was fully on board with him until he mentioned screamo and heavy metal music. I have to discount everything that he said because, something that I kind of like, he is against. So yeah, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to completely write him off. I feel like that's what a lot of people were doing, but he has an interesting point there. If you don't like a particular thing, you really don't have to focus on it. You have an entire other world out there.
you have to be funny, but you can't be too mean, right? You can't hit a fly with a sledgehammer. Your response has to be proportionate.
Yes.
I mean, you up the ante a little bit. That's my presumption. You up the ante a little bit when someone says something smart, but you don't come out with like the long knives and hack someone to bits.
Of course.
Right, because that'll turn them again. Because first of all, you can actually hurt someone publicly by doing that, which is not good if it's not necessary. And second, you could easily turn the audience against you. Well, this is also, again, why I think it's so unfair that comedians in particular face this kind of absurd cancellation pressure, because the line that a good comic is walking on is so damn thin. You have to be playing with disaster in order to be funny. Right?
Jordan Peterson brings up a really good point there. And a lot of comedians, including the late, great Patrice O'Neill, have brought up that, the place that good comedy comes from is the same place that bad comedy comes from. And, in order to find that space that's right up to the line, sometimes you have to go over to truly know where it's at. It really does seem absurd, some of the standards that, some comedians are held to, when all they're trying to do is entertain and to make you laugh.
Comedy is purely down to intent. When people are bullying you, like when high schoolers are making fun of something about you, that's a totally different intent. Even though they are making a joke, their intention is that you're gonna feel a certain kind of way. That is what differentiates it from stand-up comedy. Every single thing I say on stage is said with nothing but the intention to make people laugh. And I understand it's not going to make everybody else laugh. Some people heal totally differently when it comes to certain topics. I get that and I accept that. I'm not for you. But
but getting touchy about that, even if you've been hurt, getting touchy about that, first of all, that's a sign that you still have some real work to do. And second, getting touchy about that and then shielding yourself from any exposure to that is not the way to being cured. Quite the contrary, like if it's better if you've had a traumatic experience in your life, not to protect yourself unduly from situations that might bring that back up, but to voluntarily expose yourself to situations where that's likely to be the case. And so it might be understandable in that people have been hurt, but it's counterproductive even with regard to their own recovery.
Oh, absolutely.
And partly what comedy does too, it has this psychological function, is that it does provide it's sort of like a horror movie in some ways. It's a weird thing that people will go voluntarily watch a horror movie, because you might ask, like, why would you pay to be scared?
Yeah.
But you're not. You're paying for the experience of the mastery of your fear, right? And you have to, well, and then in comedy, you see the same sort of thing happening, is the comedians are always toying with the forbidden. And the reason for that, in part, the reason the audience participates is because, well, we often have to deal with the forbidden, and often some of the things we forbid aren't things that we should be avoiding or forbidding.
That is a really good point as well. How do we know what topics in our lives, in the world, are forbidden? It does seem like, a comedian is one that should be testing those boundaries. But yeah, it is a tightrope act that they're definitely playing, where they try to go up to the line, but not necessarily cross it. But yeah, I think Matt Rife's point is also very well stated, that, it is all about the intent. And somebody can't tell you what your intent was with a joke. They can only assume it. It is a bit of mind reading.
When this tempest in a teapot emerged, to make arguably even a worse joke, because I think, which I'm very pleased about, by the way. I thought that was actually a masterstroke. Because first of all, did you have any guilt about the domestic violence joke? Which, by the way, I also thought was very funny.
Because it's a completely made up story. Like it's. I went to one diner and a girl had like a little bruise under her eye, and it was like a conversational joke that happened at our table, and I went, This is crazy. How do you describe this humor? Is there a definition or a label for the kind of humor that you just say the worst possible scenario? It's funny because it's ridiculous, because you know it's not true, because you know it's not what you mean, you know it's not the right thing. That is what makes it funny.
I'm not 100% sure exactly which one he's meaning, but he might be meaning black humor, which is a form of humor that regards human suffering as absurd rather than pitiable, or it considers human existence as ironic and pointless, but somehow comic, or it could be gallows humor, which is grim and ironic humor in desperate or hopeless situation. I'm not sure. It seems a little bit more like it would be black humor to me, what Matt Rife was trying to talk about. But yeah, the fact that there are so many genres of comedy, and there are specifically dark versions of comedy to help people deal with certain situations, sometimes just that dark absurdity is comedy unto itself. It might not be your brand of comedy, but hey, it is one that apparently Matt Rife enjoys. So who are you to say that he shouldn't be able to do that?
See, one of the things that you do when you set up a terrible scenario and then you make a joke about it is, first of all, you signal to the audience that you understand that this was a terrible scenario. And then you signal that even though you know it was a terrible scenario, there's part of you that can rise above it and transcend it, right? And to make light of it. And I don't think there is anything really more admirable in human beings than their ability to make light of a tragedy.
Yes.
And light doesn't mean to minimize its importance. It means to transform something that's truly negative into something that's manageable and comical. One of the things I've seen with people who've undergone very deeply traumatic experiences is that you know that they've recovered from their absolute catastrophe when they can start making a joke about it.
So Jordan Peterson's statement there really reminded me of a quote from Viktor E. Frankl.
Humor was another of the soul's weapons in the fight for self-preservation. It is well known that humor, more than anything else in the human makeup, can afford an aloofness and an ability to rise above any situation, even if only for a few seconds. Viktor E. Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning.
He is a multiple concentration camp survivor. He did then go on to create Logos Therapy and really write on the subject of man's search for meaning. But he really did talk about the importance of humor. And, he does have a couple of anecdotes where he was able to help somebody find meaning just by giving them the task of come up with one joke to tell me per day. And apparently that was the difference that he found in the survivors versus those who kind of gave up. If you found meaning, if you had something that gives you purpose, and it could be as simple as just, a joke, but those were the ones who tended to survive in his experience. And I think it just speaks to the power of humor.
Yeah. I find it wildly important to make light of dark situations. I feel like you have two options to deal with a situation. You can either, when it comes to a certain topic, you can either let it take up a negative space in your mind and energy to where if the word or topic even gets said around you, you get so triggered and uncomfortable, it ruins your day.
And the day of everyone around you.
Yes, or you can find a way to laugh about it, find a way to heal. So that way, next time somebody brings it up, maybe you have something positive to say about your experience or how you've come to deal with it that can then lead to other people healing through the same way. When my grandpa passed away, my friends knew. My friends bombarded me with dead grandfather jokes. They knew that was gonna help me laugh and get through that. And it was the toughest moment of my entire life. And to this day.
That's also a testament in many ways to your character, because your friends knew that even under those dire circumstances, that they could still poke and prod at you and that you might be able to manage the situation with something approximating a sense of humor. And that's why people enjoy the laughter so much, right? Because it is a signal of mastery, often over tragedy and what's forbidden.
That is a really eloquent way of thinking about it, that comedy is mastery over tragedy. I really enjoy hearing both Matt Rife's philosophy on this and Jordan Peterson's, but I guess this has been a bit of a tangent away from the purpose of this, where we were going to talk about specifically comedians' apologies. So let's get into the apology.
When you get canceled or somebody is upset about a joke you tell, you're supposed to apologize. People want you to back down and shame you and recognize what you've done wrong. And I don't believe I did anything wrong whatsoever. So it made me really feel like the people who were offended by this were, for lack of better words, and to be quite frank, weak-minded. So I posted a photo of me on stage, thought it was a good photo, with a link at the bottom of it. And the caption was saying, if I've ever offended you with a joke I've told, here's a link to my official apology. And the link description should have been a dead giveaway. It said, click to solve your issue. And when you click on the link, it redirected you to a store,
That's
an
funny.
online
Click
storefront.
to solve your issue. That's funny.
Very specific.
Because it's a little ambiguous.
Of course. And then you click on the link and it redirects you to an online storefront for special needs helmets.
So that was a really cheeky response to a demand of an apology that he received. You know, I kind of respect it. It is different than most of the apologies that I've seen. You know, if you were offended, click here to solve all your problems. But the fact that he set it up as a prank, and you know, many people actually tapped to fix all of their problems. You know, I think that really did kind of add to the backlash that he ended up getting. But just a couple more clips here, and then we'll be done with Jordan Peterson. But he brings up a rather interesting point right here.
And I thought your response was dead on. Like, one of the things I've noticed is that people who are harassed by sensorial-minded nullwits almost always back down and apologize. And then my sense of that is that a mob comes after them first for whatever hypothetical sin they've committed, and then they apologize, and a second mob comes after them for that.
Exactly.
And then they lessen their own character by the false apology, and they embolden these idiot accusers. And so what to do about that, I have no idea, although apologizing is a bad idea.
Yeah, absolutely not. I'll never apologize for a joke, ever.
Matt Rife saying that he would never apologize for a joke ever kind of reminded me of a clip from quite a while ago now. But yeah, there was another comedian who kind of had that stance, and you know, I've never seen them taken out by cancel culture, at least not yet.
Have any of you ever apologized for a joke?
And would you?
We know you haven't.
I've been asked to repeatedly. They want an apology. Why aren't you coming on here and defending your joke? Like, why don't you come appear on these New Zealand morning shows and talk? And I'm like, why the hell would I ever want to do that? Like, I would never. It's like asking LeBron James to clean up the victory parade.
Do you think you're as good at comedy as LeBron James is at basketball?
Better. Maybe in a couple years when LeBron's had some time to work out some kinks. Right. You know what I mean? But I wouldn't put myself at that level. Yeah. I know people just they want an apology for them. It's like if someone says a mean tweet to you, they just kind of want you to like acknowledge their existence, and then that's the victory. Right. So people keep asking for an apology or explain your joke. Which why? Why ever defend or explain anything?
So that got me thinking, what do other comedians think about the idea of apologizing for a joke? It seems to be, you know, kind of one of the rules that you just don't do it. But yeah, so I hunted down some clips of...
Trust me, they will just find more shit you've done in your life. Just shut your mouth and hope it goes away. That's what you have to do. And so, yeah, I know I've been very lucky that I haven't been canceled, but... You never know.
The New World Orders, you can't apologize. So you groveling and summoning up this fake apology and getting ass-canned from your job, that's lose-lose. If you're gonna get fired, at least keep your head up. It's like you're putting a saucer of milk out because you're trying to be friends with the feral cat. But all you get is more feral cats. And you go, oh, I feel bad for the cat. I know, but you can't put the saucer of milk out. The apology is the saucer of milk.
We talk about canceling and all that, and it's become like a religion. You know, people live for this shit. But with religion, there's forgiveness. There doesn't seem to be any forgiveness in the canceling.
And even if you apologize, you can't just apologize. You got to apologize like they want you to apologize.
I know. Look at Kevin Hart.
And you got to have that fuck them motherfuckers mentality. You got to say fuck you, fuck you.
Here, here.
You got to have that type of mentality, or they going to keep riding on you. And I do sense that when they sense that they think they got somebody that they can ride on, that they can actually influence their behavior, whatever, they just go in. And it trips me out when somebody apologizes and they say, no, you got to apologize to him too. Then you got to
exactly.
go, we didn't feel that apology. You need to be more sincere.
Yeah, it's all bananas. And it's weird we consider them the good guys. Like you claim to be compassionate and trying to help people. You're fucking bullies. You're bully. I want another apology. That apology. You didn't mean that apology. I'm like, I didn't mean the joke either, motherfucker. Like, how come you're not mad about that?
And I mean, what's he supposed to do? Apologize for a joke? Like, that is like the number one rule of comedy. You do not apologize for your jokes.
I have definitely heard that before, that one of the rules in comedy is you don't apologize for your jokes because, you know, then you have to explain every single joke, and then your every thought is subject to the whim of whoever could possibly be offended by it. You know, that is definitely one school of thought on it. So I wanted to kind of examine two similar situations. So one where the comedian apologized and one where they did not. So I was trying to think what would be one of the most similar controversial things for a joke, if you will. And kind of the first thing that came to mind was photographs of jokes. So there were two kind of similar situations that I wanted to explore. One involving Roseanne and one involving Kathy Griffin.
Speaking of women taking risks.
Yeah, I got in a little bit of trouble for that, too.
After the images went viral, Kathy Griffin holding a bloodied likeness of President Donald Trump's head.
So granted, these two incidents happened at completely different times. There wasn't really this push of social media when Roseanne did this, and hers was for a magazine shoot where Kathy Griffin's photo shoot apparently was the last photo of the day. There wasn't much thought put behind it. The photographer suggested this to Kathy Griffin, and she kind of went along with it. And then I believe it was also only posted on the photographer's site, and it just kind of went viral that way. So it wasn't like it was released in an actual magazine spread, but Roseanne did get a lot of crap for this. But Roseanne stuck to her guns with her kind of offensive photo, where Kathy Griffin kind of took a couple different routes with hers. So let's take a little bit more of a look into each of these situations.
Yeah.
She looks like Hitler in the picture.
Don't I look like
Hitler?
Hitler? Like you have his face. Thank you. Check out my fucking Hitler shit. That's Hitler.
These are little gingerbread Jews, aren't they? Yeah.
It's like a Jewish woman, and she's dressed up like Hitler, and he's in drag, Hitler, and he's baking cookies, and he's really proud of them, but also he's looking off into the horizon because he has a dream.
Jews went crazy over this, understandably.
Yeah, and I don't see understandably. It really pissed me off because they're like, you're making fun of the people in the ovens. Well, I'm not making fun of the people.
You kind of are, though.
I kind of am not.
I mean, let's be honest
you
here.
say
Only
that?
thing would have been worse if you made the cookies skinny.
Wow. No, that's so not right. Can I finish up?
Yes, please,
Okay.
please.
Also, there's another deeper layer to it. Just the everyday. I mean, moving off of this Holocaust, there's been about 50 of them since then. That's what I'm kind of trying to say is like, Jesus Christ, it's so fucking everyday now, Holocaust. It's like baking cookies. It really is.
Yeah.
It really is.
That's beautiful.
So that seems to me to be the huge difference between the two. There are layers behind what Roseanne did, and she's willing to back them up and explain them to people, where Kathy Griffin took a different option when it kind of went viral and she got pushback for her photos.
Hey everybody, it's me, Kathy Griffin. I sincerely apologize. I am just now seeing the reaction of these images. I'm a comic. I crossed the line. I moved the line, then I cross it. I went way too far. The image is too disturbing. I understand how it offends people. It wasn't funny. I get it. I've made a lot of mistakes in my career. I will continue. I asked your forgiveness, taking down the image, gonna ask the photographer to take down the image, and I begged for your forgiveness. I went too far. I made a mistake and I was wrong.
Just after the incidents, Kathy Griffin decided she must make a video from her phone, and she kind of released one to her social media. That was the video we just watched. But she also hired a PR firm, and they kind of explained to her, this isn't far enough. What we need to do is we need to actually host a press conference.
People want, a joke that's out there and a little crazy. So regarding the image that I participated in, that apology absolutely stands. I feel horrible. I have performed in war zones. The idea that this, made people think of this tragedy, to have been touched by this tragedy is horrifying and it's horrible. Trust me, if I could redo the whole thing, I would have had a blow-up doll and no ketchup.
This whole situation does kind of remind me of what Jordan Peterson was saying. he kind of predicted this particular pattern, if you will, to people that seem to give in to the mob.
And I thought your response was dead on. Like, one of the things I've noticed is that people who are harassed by sensorial-minded nullwits almost always back down and apologize. And then my sense of that is that a mob comes after them first for whatever hypothetical sin they've committed, and then they apologize, and a second mob comes after them for that.
Exactly.
And then they lessen their own character by the false apology, and they embolden these idiot accusers.
That kind of seems to explain to me, or at least describe to me, Kathy Griffin's journey here. But it doesn't stop there. She actually goes a step further. When her apology didn't quite work, and then she had a press conference to explain it and apologize even better based off of how her PR people told her to, and then that wasn't effective. After that mob came back to her again, she actually changed course.
I can't believe it's been a year since this. It's a year this month that that picture was released.
Right.
And we already described.
What a year it's been.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, I take the apology back.
Okay, we're going to need to ding that bell if that happens
And
again, Kathy.
the sons, Don Jr. and Eric, or as I called them, Eddie Munster and date rape. Look, I'm not holding back on this family.
What's happening?
Oh, yeah, I take that apology back, by the way. I take it back big time. Big time. Yes. Yes.
Because this was from a press conference that you held.
I had a press conference with an attorney named Lisa Bloom. You're going to have to look that up because she actually represented Harvey Weinstein. So I got a lot of bad advice.
You know, now she's completely about-faced and is taking back the apology, and she feels like she must do a press tour to do that. I don't know. It just seems like, you know, to me as a person on the outside, it seems like somebody is kind of flailing around and trying to try anything to appease the mob that's coming after her. I'm not sure that that's exactly what's going on here, but it is an interesting about face. You know, not only doing an apology, not only doing a press conference, but then saying that, you know, you got really bad advice and actually what you want to do is take those all back. I don't know. It's an interesting strategy.
You're the only comedian that's actually gotten canceled. Oh, really canceled? Yeah, like Not I'm like saying. fakey No, cancel. it's not theater. It's No, not. it I'm was an doing. investigation by two agencies within the Department of Justice where I was interrogated under oath. The Secret Service and the U.S. Attorney's Office was very seriously considering charging me with a conspiracy to assassinate the President of the United States. Right, by assassination by photo shoot. Yes. And I actually got a FOIA about this recently. And Freedom of Information Act. And it showed how aggressively the Oval Office was pursuing actual criminal charges. Yes. So whenever someone's talking about I'm canceled, they're canceled, go, all right, let's compare their cancellation to Kathy Griffin's cancellation. Most of the people I know moved up a venue. A no-fly list. Fucking no. Anywhere? Anywhere. For how long? I also was.
Granted, these two situations aren't 100% analogous. You know, they are slightly different. Again, with the Roseanne one, it's not a sitting current world leader. You know, so there is nobody investigating her for saying that, you know, perhaps poking fun at a former dictator. You know, whereas a sitting president is a little bit different. I could see that, you know, the Secret Service would have to look into this, but yeah, it definitely is a little bit of a different situation when it's a sitting leader, but still, you know, it is rather interesting that it did kind of go that far, and she was put on the do not fly list.
Also was taking it in initially that what if that photo was used in an ISIS video? You know, I was very seriously hearing the things people were saying. Now they've been debunked, but I started thinking I don't want to just blow that off. And so of course I could understand, you know, this comedian who it's not her lane anyway.
and now she's gone and done this thing.
Did you think to yourself, I knew I shouldn't have done political comedy?
Stick to prop work. And so of course, are you kidding? I thought, what if, God forbid, an American gets freaking decapitated and somebody says in a video.
Yeah. Thank you, Kathy Griffin, for the inspiration.
So my God, there's the other side. There's the other side, and that makes sense.
But that's also,
and stuff is so crazy that someone could have, for all I know.
Did you feel guilt and shame about it?
Yes, of course.
So I could definitely understand somebody seeing that as a valid reason why they need to apologize. If their words could actually lead to real life harm. She is saying that it was debunked. So I guess I could also understand, I fell for this thing, but it's been debunked, so I'm taking it back. Guess I can understand it. Just, I don't know. It does seem to make it kind of an interesting stance. But yeah, I'll let her keep explaining.
Meaning,
well,
I mean, I guess I'm as guilty.
Huh? I'm not really uncanceled. Like,
what's different?
What's different finally is that I actually have a tour. So
Great.
that's really the tangible thing. But it's not like my phone's ringing, So
there was some stand-up in the documentary, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that wasn't really a tour, though?
No, my last tour, that was almost 6 years ago. But my last tour was the best tour I've ever done in my career.
Money-wise?
And reviews. I got the best reviews of my career. And I thought, even though the tour was about being canceled and primarily about the Trump stuff, I threw in some celebrity stuff, but mostly about the Trump thing. I really thought.
And he is technically the host of The Apprentice. So.
Yes.
And he always will be.
One of the many ways I met him, by the way. And, I just thought the phone would ring because the film got so well reviewed. I did a bunch of film festivals. I was doing Q&As with cool people. And I thought, okay, people might have been scared, but now I've put this movie out. It's called Kathy Griffin, A Hell of a Story. I put this movie out a year and a half later, or a year, whatever. And I thought I could maybe be able to go back to work, but it was still too soon. It was as if it took America this long to forgive me. That's what I feel like.
Well, I'm glad that, Kathy Griffin now feels like America is in a place that they can and actually have forgiven her. I think just for making a joke, it does seem like quite a long time to have to kind of pay that price. But I can't help but wonder if it's because of her choice to apologize and then double down on that apology and then play the Uno reverse card and just take it back and then try and go on a tour taking it back and then make a video, an entire documentary where you're then taking it back and then you've got to take the crap out of Trump with your brand of comedy. I don't know. I do wonder if it wasn't her presentation and the fact that she did, kind of bend the knee, that helped people kind of write her off, if you will, so that when she then took back the apology, it's like, yeah, but what do you stand for? You already bent the knee. So I want to take a look at comedian Tony Hinchcliffe's own brush with cancellation and his demand for an apology and what he chose to do in the face of this demand. So I'll let him kind of explain the situation.
Yeah.
Their own news cycle is what they did, unfortunately. The story was dying out. I made fun of an Asian comedian during an actual stand-up comedy show where recording wasn't allowed. And it was taken out of context, and the comedian tried to get famous off of that. It was Asian Heritage Month, and you weren't allowed to make fun of Asians. And at the time, the media was saying that Asians were being attacked by people. This was, COVID, towards the end of COVID. And the storyline from the media is that they were being blamed for this from crazy people. So anyway, I do jokes, as I do. And, when it's Asian Heritage Month and they're under the spotlight in the news, that's when I do go for it. Right now, I'm doing Israel and Palestine jokes that, yes, if a lot of people saw them, they would clip it and put it on the internet and go, can you believe what this guy's saying? But if you're not a comedy fan and you're not in the room specifically and you didn't see what happened before that, Of course, things can be taken out.
But I always say, okay, go ahead with WME.
But and so when that happened, it was a giant news story, which is absolutely crazy to me. The WME dropped me, and it was their own news story. It was a virtue signaling time in history for a lot of big companies and things. And I don't think it's quite like that. And right now, I've seen the temperature kind of change, but right then it was the extreme.
I certainly hope that Tony's right about the temperature is down a little bit, but we were in a virtue signaling time. I don't know. I fear that maybe it's not over. There have been kind of some more recent events, since I started making this video. Even somebody else was forced to apologize and kind of went through an entire situation. So I don't know. I hope he is correct. And, this is just the tail end of it. But well after this interview with him, people were made the same demand. You must apologize for your jokes. They're insensitive and you hurt people with them. So I don't know. I certainly hope he's right.
Virtue.
Did you panic?
Oh, it was a horrendous 3 days. It was very bizarre. I could see how it could turn out great, but you still are like, wait, what? It was then that really, I leaned all the way into the freedom of Texas, because it's like, even though it happened here, which is crazy because I was doing crazy jokes in LA for 16 years before moving here, the city embraced me. And like when I went up 4 or 5 days after that incident for the first time ever, the boom was crazier than ever. And I'm like, oh, okay. I just don't think you can get canceled for a joke. And trust me, WME wishes they didn't do that. I've noticed that anyone who gets canceled for a joke, in trouble for a joke, if they're funny, it accelerates their career 100-fold. This happened to Shane Gillis.
Yeah, it was with Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, and you look at that mistake.
And we'll take a look at that one in just a moment. But I hope he's right that, not apologizing tends to rocket someone's career. But it could just be that they're good enough that they could get away with it, where, perhaps it would go south for somebody else. And that could cost them the one opportunity that they would have had the only shot at. So, it is awesome that some of those people who are really talented are able to persevere. But I'm not sure that option is there.
He's an absolute monster. And more importantly, he's one of the best. So if they tried, same thing happened with Ari Shaffir, another great comedian, who just put out one of the best hour specials.
We had him on
in like a decade.
Jew.
Yep. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing.
It's so brilliant and so smart.
Mm-hmm.
And these people are thriving, including myself. If it's not right, if it's for a joke, you're only going to help the person. And during the few days, like I said, I was stressed then because I didn't see it so clearly. But meanwhile, those guys are all calling me. Shane's calling me saying, don't apologize. It's going to be all right. Ari's calling me going, whatever you do, don't apologize. Everything's going to be fine. And all these other people are calling me going, are you going to apologize? Are you going to make a video? Are you going to write a statement? Are you going to have your agent write a statement? Are you going to make a video where you explain what happened? Are you going to write a thing where you explain what happened? And I'm taking in all this information from all these different people. And I mean, a lot of them aren't Ari and Shane. And by the way, Ari and Shane really blew up kind of after my thing. They were getting bigger, but their wild success hadn't happened yet. But what they kept saying is what stuck with me, which is say nothing. If you explain what happened, then what the hell are we talking about here? You're explaining a joke. And if you apologize for a joke, which was the farthest, which was the last thing that I wanted to do. And each one of my wildly successful friends that were recommending that, I was listening to them. I was taking in the information. I wasn't saying, no, I'm not going to do that. But I was saying, I was asking questions and trying to figure it out, but it was never an option. I mean, as corny as it sounds, but like apologizing for a joke in my world, I think that would have canceled me. To my base, to the people that watch Kill Tony, that have seen me do a billion worse things on Mondays, and everyone laughs and we move on. 7 seconds later, there's another joke. So what are you offended about something back then? You want to pause and rewind and watch it again, you know?
And also, an apology is you didn't do any. The context is comedy.
Yeah.
The context is to make people happy, is to laugh.
Yeah.
And we all have different tastes in music and art, in paintings, in if you at the worst case scenario, somebody doesn't get it. Doesn't like it, doesn't respond to it. But when you apologize for it, you're amplifying the people who believe it's a mistake, which I don't believe there is in comedy. But the people who believe it's a mistake, you are amplifying their thought. And, yes, it's a mistake. It has to be a mistake because he's apologizing. If he's apologizing, I was right. He did something wrong. Whereas I don't like it. You could be offended by it. You can. That's all okay. And by the same token, even with me on AGT, I understand. I will do. I do things that are wrong, that I have to apologize for, and they make me. But I'm taking the check.
That is an interesting point. And it also has a lot of validity that Howie is working on AGT, and part of that is he is signing a contract that says he will behave under, certain conditions, and he will, hold himself a certain way and represent the show and the parent company in a certain light. So it makes sense that he would apologize, but he knows that he has to apologize because it's in his contract. Where Tony's situation, and actually all of these comedians so far, they're not beholden to some company that's requiring them to apologize. But that does kind of make sense when you hear why Howie would go ahead and apologize. And it is because he is representing some other company. He has taken the money to do so.
I've always put it this way, and this hit me during the 3 days where the news was talking about me and a racist tirade from a comedian or whatever, however they labeled it during a comedy show, from a roast comedian to a comedian that I knew. Granted, they, tried to betray me and get famous from an incident. But I always said, if I said what I said to that comedian to an Uber driver, and that video came out of me going da 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 da, right? That I would apologize for. That would be me losing my temper and my mind for a second and doing that. So what would I do? The same thing that I did for real life for something that I did at a comedy show? Does this make sense?
Have you talked?
Now, my stupid mind kind of goes in a couple different directions here. So first off, Tony's talking about if he did this in real life, not at a comedy club, what, then you should actually be holding him responsible for it. And that kind of reminds me of a specific incident that I do want to take a look at. But he also mentioned Shane Gillis, and at the same time, Shane Gillis was telling him, don't apologize. Whatever you do, do not apologize. And then Howie was talking about how he's beholden to AGT because he has taken that check. So that does kind of make me wonder about Shane's controversy that he had when he was working at SNL. But, I guess let me focus on this kind of the inverse of what Tony was talking about. If he actually did this in real life and did this in a cab, then he would apologize. Then he needs to actually do this. Well, that reminded me of a certain rather controversial incident, perhaps the most infamous incident of a comedian on stage offending a lot of people and then having to apologize about it. But it is a little different. And
so, Kramer, quite infamously, Michael Richardson,
Yes.
what he did there was probably close to cancelable. There
I
wasn't
think
humor
for sure.
laced in anything that he
No.
was saying there. He was just being
It sucks.
racist.
That dude was in a low point in his, yes, 100%. That dude was in a low point in his life. They had tried to do, I can't remember if it was just called the Michael Richards Show, but that failed. He tried a few different movies like Trial and Error, and there was another one that just bombed.
Mm-hmm.
He was really down on his luck. That's when he went into stand-up, and he just happened to be, I believe it's famously at the Laugh Factory, wasn't it?
Yes.
I can still see the thing behind him. Yeah, the logo there. But yeah,
They
that
weren't
dude did
producing
not
money
tell
when he
one
laughed on
joke. Yeah, there was literally no joke in the entire thing. Not one part of it was funny.
No.
The guy was heckling him, telling him he wasn't funny, and he just kept doing this racist tirade.
Yeah.
Shut up! 50 years ago, they had you upside down with a fork up. You can talk, you can talk, you can talk your brain now, with a rolls outside. He's not.
Oh my God.
What's you, son? Oh, it's a big threat. That's how you get back at the man. That was real called for. Wait a minute, he's not going here, David. You're not funny. That's why you reset. Never had no show, never had no movie. Signed film, that's it. Oh, I guess you got me there. You're absolutely right.
Why don't you explain exactly what happened for the folks who may not know?
And I got heckled, and I took it badly and went into a rage and said some pretty nasty things to some Afro-Americans, a lot of trash talk, and
Stop laughing. It's not funny.
I'm very, very sorry to those people in the audience, the blacks, the Hispanics, the whites, everyone that was there that took the brunt of that anger and hate and rage.
The thing that makes it so much worse is his actual apology. He says, like, I was just full of rage. I'm sorry. And it's like, what? So Patrice O'Neal, he actually had this amazing famous bit on Opie and Anthony, but they
First of all, about Cosmo, I'm old enough to follow him from Friday. He's one of these conceptual Andy Kaufman type dudes.
Yeah.
So when I saw the video, I thought at first, he was just doing some old weird, I only understand what I'm doing stuff. You know what I mean? I didn't think he was racist until he apologized.
Anthony, but they asked him about it. And he's like, I didn't think Cosmo was racist until I saw his apology. And, he's got a point. Like, maybe he's doing some Andy Kaufman shit, but no, he wasn't. You can tell with his apology.
Yeah. So I'm sure somebody was going to bring up Kramer or has thought about Kramer, but the real difference there is none of that was comedy. He literally got flustered in the moment and he went into a rage. Even when you look at his apology, it wasn't, I was trying some comedy and I thought this would be funny. Obviously, it didn't land. It was nothing along those lines. It was, no, I was angry. I was in a state of rage and I took it out on these people. That is horrible. I really don't think that this belongs in that same category. And I think this 100% deserves an apology because that was somebody just being a horrible person. Kind of like what Tony had described earlier. If it was just him in a cab saying the same stuff that he said to a fellow comedian on a stage in a club where he's trying to get laughs, if he just said that to like some cabbie, yeah, that would be racist as hell. And he probably should apologize for it. That appears to be the difference between his situation and Kramer's, where Kramer's kind of is that same situation that he just described. The person just being racist in their regular life. I think that does deserve an apology. I don't know if that's ever enough. Let's take a look now at Shane Gillis's situation. I was able to get him kind of piecing together the whole story by looking at a few different podcasts and kind of getting little bits and pieces from it. But remember, he did reach out to Tony and he did say, don't apologize. Whatever you do, don't apologize. But keep in mind, he is also kind of under, that Howie Mandel thing where Howie was saying that he is employed by AGT and he is a representative of them. So since he took that check, he does have to kind of listen to them when they say apologize. Well, Shane happened to get in a controversy and he happened to be employed by SNL at the time. So, let's go ahead and let him explain the situation.
So you got cast on SNL.
Yes.
And then what happened?
So I found out I was getting on SNL the day before they announced it. Anyway, they asked me to go straight to cast. So I was like, yeah, I'll definitely do that. Lauren calls, says, "Hey, we want to use you on the show. We're going to announce it tomorrow." He was like, "Do you have anything you want us to check out?" Like, they have people that vet you.
Right.
But they're not used to people having podcasts.
Right. So they'd have to go through hundreds of
They
hours
go through your
of shit.
Facebook, your Instagram, your Twitter. I was just like, I'll just delete all that shit. I don't care. Delete it all.
Right.
But I was like, I also have a podcast. And they're like, yeah, what's that? And I was like, I don't know. I say like gay and retard a lot. And they were like, oh, that's fine. Don't worry about it. So I was like, all right, we'll see. And so the day they announced it, it was cool. It was very cool. You hear from everybody you've ever grown up with. They're all like, holy shit, what just, like, I can't believe you're on this. And then, so that lasted for about like 3 hours before an article came out that was like, here's what this guy says. There's a clip of me saying some, unsavory stuff.
Yeah.
But
talking shit.
It was.
Holy shit. That would just be utterly devastating, to go from the highest high of like, yes, I'm on this show. It's announced, like, oh my God, this is amazing, to in 3 hours getting an attack article just dragging you, explaining how horrible you are and how horrible SNL is for hiring you. God, that's got to be crushing.
It was like they always have one or two, like something will come up where they tweeted something a while ago, but it was never a video of them saying a slur. You know what I mean?
Right.
So the whole time I was like, no, I'm not. Like, this is bad. If they're going through my podcast, like, this is bad. So I was kind of like, I'm definitely getting fired the whole time. Yeah, and then that night I'm on the phone with like Lauren and all these people telling me what to do. Like, don't apologize, say all this shit.
What's Lauren telling you?
So NBC is saying, here's the statement you need to say. And it's like a written out, like, what I said was inexcusable. I've learned from my mistakes. Like that, like paragraph, you need to tweet this. And I was like, I'm not going to tweet that. Like, that's crazy. But then Lauren was like, I just need you to give me something. So I was like, all right, that's fair. That's reasonable.
That's an awesome stance. So basically just saying like, no, I'm not going to do that. No, that's going to ruin my comedy career. Just going back on that. But I can give you something. That I like that a lot. That makes sense to me. It seems like it's kind of the hybrid between what Tony was saying that he did and, what Howie was saying he would have to do. You definitely want to give them something because you are representing them right now. But do you sacrifice your entire career to do it? Do you sacrifice your cred in, the comedy world just to save SNL?
It's reasonable. And so, yeah, I just had like 5 minutes. He was like, I need something in the next 10 minutes. So I just sat there and typed something out.
And tweeted it?
Yeah. That was it.
And that didn't do anything for him?
No, fuck no. I mean, I sent it to him first and he was like, all right, yeah, we'll try. Post this, see how it goes. And there's no apologizing. Nobody, there's nothing I could have said in that moment where all these people that wanted my job would have been like, oh, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you tweet an apology, that's not going to do anything.
No.
That's really sad, but it does kind of make sense. Like if a mob is coming at you, what can you possibly say that's going to appease them all? Once they've tasted blood, once they're out for blood, is there any, forgiveness available? Or is it just, what else can I get out of this person? They're already bowing down. They're bending the knee. What more can I get? He brings up a really good point. What could he have said that would have made it okay? I don't think there's anything. So it does kind of make sense to stick to your guns. But yeah, I can understand, being under contract with SNL to want to give them something. But yeah, I really respect that he didn't want to completely undermine his entire comedy career by just giving a full out apology for him, being funny on a podcast and offending some people with it.
They're going to just rip it apart. They're going to be like, he doesn't care.
Right.
Now
it's more fodder to tear apart. Yeah. So then when do you get the actual call that you're not going to be a cast member?
Like 4 days later. Yeah.
Because are you just fucking shitting yourself, like dying inside?
I wasn't like, it was just very surreal. It wasn't like, don't get me wrong, I was extremely stressed out. Like I'll see a video or interview of me from back then, and I'm like, oh man, I was different. Like I was fucked up. It does fuck you up. Like getting like canceled or whatever, however you want to say it.
But it's more than being canceled. It's this rise, this historic show, this childhood dream, and canceled all in
like a week.
Yeah, all in a week. Like
it's just a hell of a journey, and especially to go on in the duration of 1 week, just from the highest high to the lowest low to just numb. I couldn't imagine what he's going through at that point. Just to think like, okay, I've made it. I'm on SNL, and then to just get that ripped away from you in under 3 hours of the announcement. Like he's saying he knew that there was no appeasing them, that nothing would be good enough. And sadly, he was right. I couldn't imagine what that week was to him, but it does seem to have made him stronger. And, I'm glad to say that Shane Gillis had quite the comeback. We'll get into some of that right here.
Like there's more.
Yes. Salute.
Hey.
Bud Light came all the way back.
Cheers.
Bud
Light,
Jamie.
water.
They came in that corner. Bud Light came all the way back. UFC, Shane Gillis. Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's fucking go.
For the pros now.
I mean, that's a good move. Like that guy that we met, the CEO.
Yeah.
He's got it together.
Yeah.
He gets it. He gets it.
I thought you were the
Good
CEO
dude.
now.
Just in commercials.
I knew you guys were gonna fucking make fun of me.
Come on, man. I'm so happy.
No, it wouldn't have happened without this.
Listen, I'm so happy. I'm so happy. It just made so much sense. You never let them go. You never bailed on them.
That is true. And that's a really good point that Joe is bringing up. Like Shane famously has been drinking Bud Light for years. And he made it really famous on Joe Rogan's podcast when they were, shotgunning them and then doing the beer bong. And every appearance that he's on, guesting on anyone's show, he pretty much has those beers. He never left them when there was that whole controversy going. It just makes sense that they would now support him. He's really right. It just makes sense. It's nice that, Bud themselves is kind of turning a corner and kind of looking for, spokespeople that do actually appeal to the demographic that would be drinking that particular beer. I think they made a really wise choice, but that's just kind of a drop in the bucket of the good news that's happening for Shane. Not only is he, just making huge waves in the comedy world with his specials, which really, really have been doing great, but on top of that, he was able to make a small victory, a place that had previously abandoned him.
5 years after being brutally fired from Saturday Night Live in one of the wildest series of events ever heard, Shane Gillis will officially be making his long-debated return to SNL as the host of the show.
Shane did make his return, and he did host it, and it went amazing. There were some really funny sketches. Sadly, some of the funniest ones were the ones that were cut, but I guess SNL is doing that now. It just seems to be a thing that they're doing. But I got to be honest, it's one of the few times that I have watched SNL in the recent past. And his episode was quite amazing. Not every sketch was amazing, but I absolutely loved his monologue. But, people couldn't just let him have a victory. They had to try and bring up old wounds. So first off, before he was actually on the show, a whole bunch of articles came out kind of stoking the fire of Cancellation that was under him before, where the exact same podcast that got him fired from SNL kept coming up and those clips kept resurfacing. And then people tried to dig up a little bit more, I guess, trying to get him to be uninvited as a host for SNL. But lucky for him, he was able to go through with the actual hosting of the show. But that did not stop his detractors.
Yeah, they never seem to acknowledge if during the monologue being like, "Oh, it sucks. I can see all you guys not laughing." That's just doing stand up,
right?
They're like, he's bombing.
That's the only time I've seen a stand up do that.
Why does the media? I saw a lot of articles. Like I didn't click on any of them.
Oh, they're
I saw a lot of headlines where they're like, Shane Gillis bombed.
Dude, the Daily Beast put out their article before the episode was over. I told Shane that. I was in my hotel in Cleveland, and I went to Yahoo for something, and they're like, Shane Gillis bombs his monologue. I'm like, I'm watching the sex doll sketch.
And I was also like, no, I didn't.
Yeah.
Like that was one I was like, I knew I didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know if when you're
I know when I bomb, and I usually hate myself.
Right.
That one I was like, that went as well as it could have.
Which just kind of goes to show you that, you know, even when you have a small victory, you know, somebody's looking to kind of take that away. Again, I don't think there's anything that he could have said to actually appease that mob. And some of them still have that snarling disposition. And, you know, they're never going to let him have any sort of win. They're going to attempt to still get that blood out of him. You know, sadly, the hatred, it burns bright for some, even years later, where they just can't let him have this little victory. It has to be taken away from him too. So that was just kind of interesting that, you know, even after he had this success, the same controversy kept resurfacing in an attempt to get him re-canceled. You know, it's really unfair. Now, but, Tony had previously said that he thought that this whole cancellation culture was dying down a little bit, and people weren't getting in trouble for jokes, especially said on a stage in a comedic moment. I hope he's right, and I hope this is kind of an aberration. But as I was kind of gathering all the footage, all the clips for this, another incident kind of went down with an up-and-coming comedian, and he just happened to apparently step on a third rail subject where the second you bring it up, it's controversy. So again, an apology was demanded of him. If you're not familiar, there's a very funny comedian out there named David Lucas. He kind of came up in the roast battle scene. He was on Wild 'N Out for quite a while, and then moved to the roast battles, and then became a regular on Kill Tony for quite a while. Now he is a headliner. But when he was doing a little bit of crowd work, if you will, an incident happened, and it called for a bunch of people making a requirement of him to apologize, just demanding it. And he had an interesting response.
Right now, you're going through some drama because you recently got canceled over or trying to get canceled over a joke. Yeah. Can you walk people through that process?
Yeah, I was at the Kansas City Funny Bone. I had a heckler. And see, that's the thing when they chop stuff up and put it on the internet.
Yeah.
Everything that I said took about 20 minutes to get to each one. Well, it was a 20-minute span of when I was being a troll. And I'm the type of person, like, if I got a heckler and they don't shut up and the club's not removing them, okay, well, if the boat's sinking, I'm going with it.
Wait, let me interrupt, because what are you supposed to, that's so unfair, right? You're there to perform. You and all comedians spend a lot of time working out your set in a certain order. It's a professionalism to it to make it sound like you just thought of it off the top of your head. It takes a lot of work to craft that. If someone's there and they just keep like honking their horn basically, and it's never funny, what are you supposed to do as a comedian?
I mean,
it's yet another example of the crowd demanding an apology. This situation seemed a little bit different, a little bit dirtier, in my opinion, because they do kind of bring his family, a whole bunch of innocents, into this for seemingly no reason other than to appear to threaten him. So I'll let him kind of explain the situation.
I mean, that's why I went to the extreme and I said what I said when I said, you're showing these white people why George Floyd got his neck kneeled on.
Yeah.
And then they groaned a little bit, and I was like, I'm just joking. I would have never kneeled on George Floyd's neck. I would have shot him.
Yeah. But that's clearly, yes, and building on a
right.
joke.
Right. And then later on in the set, I said, I like Kyle Rittenhouse too. And then later on in the set, I said, I'm doing a show for the Klan next week for $30,000. And it's like, if people don't see that that's jokes, like, you think the Klan I wish the Klan would book me for $30,000.
That's not nothing.
Right. I'd be out there roasting the shit out of him.
David Lucas, he kind of explained it there. I found another podcast where Godfrey is going through some of the bits, so you'll get to see his actual delivery of a couple of those in just a moment. But they had an interesting opinion on whether or not he was right to kind of do this and then to just keep doubling down. You kind of heard it from David Lucas himself. Originally, he said one joke, he got a groan, and then he decided to tag that with another one, and then he just kept doubling and tripling down. And I think that's what really caused the controversy. It is definitely what caused more people in the room to walk out. But man, he was a consummate professional in there, and just Godfrey even explains some of what really got him as a comedian. It is amazing the way that he handled this. But if you do get a chance, do watch the entire incident, if you will, where David Lucas almost walks a good portion of a room based off of just jokes and comedy. And then after this, because of the subject that he touched on, it was demanded that he must actually apologize to everybody. But yeah, we'll go through that in just a minute. Let's get Godfrey's opinion.
But David Lucas. I want to show David Lucas, who's part of the Tony Hinchcliffe crew in Austin. Really good at fucking.
Yeah, he was a regular on Kill Tony. He's in the Kill Tony Hall of Fame.
He is a scary roast dude.
He can roast the shit out of people. He's fantastic.
He would go on weekly for I think 3 years or whatever, and every week have a dozen new jokes to call Tony Hinchcliffe Day in the summer.
I watched him with Dave Attell. I watched him with Killers, and he roasts.
Literally, Michael Bisping, he destroyed, and then Bisping was like, oh, "We'll talk after. We'll talk." Like
ready to fight him.
At him. Like middleweight UFC champion Michael Bisping was ready to knock him out because he kept calling him cross-eyed.
Yo, let's go. Let's watch. So this happened to him.
You wanted to show them the reason George Floyd got his neck nailed on. Don't ooh at that joke. It's just a joke, man. I would have never kneeled on George Floyd's neck. I would have shot that nigga. It's called comedy, nigga. How many more black fans I gotta hit that might leave? Oh, good shit, man. I got. Cause nigga, I was just warming up with that George Floyd shit.
Fuck, man. So he's a funny dude, man. The George Floyd thing is rough, man. It's a rough one, man.
It's a
rough
touchy
one.
thing for black folks.
It's touchy as fuck. But that should be. And he's a funny motherfucker, man. Yeah. As a comic, I'm looking at it for comedy like, yo, that was hilarious. Yeah. Like, just what was hilarious is when people were leaving and he's going, yo, you still fuck with me though, right?
If you're gonna touch on a subject like that, it gotta be hilarious. That's the only rule in comedy. No subject is off limits, but it gotta be hilarious. That wasn't funny.
No. You say nigga in front of white people?
So?
What do you mean? Same shit. I'm just saying it's kind of the same shit. It's in the same category. Now, I'm sorry. All the guys that use nigga in front of white people, let's say that black people got up and left. They were like, we don't want to hear that. We don't like that. What if they all started leaving? What would you do? If they start, we don't want to, why do you keep using that word? What if, I'm saying, theoretically, what if they were like, hypothetically.
Would you double down or would you apologize?
What would you do?
You would absolutely double down.
I would double down.
Exactly. You would double down?
I would double
But
down.
I would dig the fact that they were like, we're tired of that. That would be a nice stand. That it would be like, well, wow, we're starting to protect our culture. Yeah. I would be like, I get you as a comic, doubling down, get it. But then I also like the fact that they're leaving.
If you say you would double down, don't be a hypocrite. I mean, that's what he went there.
He went there
and he doubled down,
and so he wanted to push it.
I ain't mad at what happened. I'm just saying, to me, it wasn't.
No, but that's all right. See, that's okay. It's all right because it's like that was George. You don't make fun of George Floyd.
I mean,
but that's a norm. That's okay to be that way. It's all right to be that way. It's all right to be that way. I'm not gonna do no George Floyd shit. I'm like, that shit is too fucked up for me to do it. It's not even too soon. It's just I just have a boundary for that. Yeah. I'm not doing that.
Yes.
And I push white folks all the time when I'm on stage.
We go.
I'm not shitting on my people about nothing.
Everybody has their
thing. On all the time.
I guess I hadn't looked at it through that perspective. I do like the way that Godfrey was able to kind of turn the situation on its ear by saying like, but you say the N-word in front of white people, and would you double down? And then she had to admit that in that moment she would be more comedian than say like civil rights activist or somebody who's looking for not offending anybody else. Instead, she would go comedian. And, that is kind of interesting because Gottfried is saying that he also kind of feels of two minds in this, that he does see the comedian part, and he does see the doubling down, and he does see the jokes that he is actually doing there. And as people are, leaving, he's like, yeah, but you still fuck with me, right? It's great. It is comedically very sound, but also he respects the fact that people are standing up for their culture. I guess I hadn't looked at it quite that way. I guess I never would have thought of, me saying I'm getting offended by you saying these words, don't say them or I'm going to leave. But fair enough. I can understand Godfrey's perspective on that and why he's saying that, for cultural reasons, this should be off limits. Fair enough. I can respect that. But I do like that he at least understands the comedian part of it and he's at least of two minds on it. I think, his example and the way that he was able to kind of loop her into that, I hope kind of opened her eyes a little bit to, this comedy thing. A lot of us do double down and go for the laugh. Perhaps that's not a bad thing. I'd like to think that he kind of made everybody in that room rethink it a little bit. But getting back to David Lucas, he's going to kind of explain what he did after that.
All the time.
You've seen lots of people get canceled from afar. How does it in that moment?
I've seen attempted cancellations up close.
Yeah, but now not as close as happened to you. How was that emotionally? Did it get to you?
A little bit. It more so got to me because they were harassing my mom.
They got to your mom?
Mm-hmm. A lot of BLM people, some type of way, found her address and her phone number. They were harassing her. And I'm like, yo, y'all will die.
But it's also, maybe you lost the script if you're calling some black lady and are giving her shit about what her son said.
And then they recorded her.
No, they didn't.
Yeah. They recorded her. And I'm like, and I found out, I got my lawyer. My lawyer found out who it was. I know who it is. And they have a court date coming up in April in Atlanta. And I'll be there.
That's
I haven't heard an update to the court case that's supposed to happen in April. I guess we still are in April. So, perhaps we'll get an update sometime soon. But, if somebody is looping in somebody's elderly parent and then trying to get them on tape to say something horrible and then using that as a way to kind of blackmail you into apologizing, it just seems horrible. I hope he's got a good lawyer in this and that he is able to actually get them charged with some sort of, harassment, just going after his family because of a joke that he said on stage in a comedy club. That just seems so beyond the pale.
That's awful.
I know. It's terrible.
You apologize for this to some extent, right?
So I guess I could tell you, there were threats, that I received that were very, viable. That could easily happen. I know the person. I know the people. My family runs in the street. And for me, it was because my family, I got my Peru in my family. I got a lot of people in Houston that fuck with me. Sauce Walker them, my boy J Cam, Maserati. So it was a thing of going back and forth. And it's like, this ain't serious enough for that.
Yeah.
Like, if they would have came and jumped me or something like that, then I'd be like, yeah, do what you got to do. But I know how my family and friends are on that side.
Yeah.
And it's like, I didn't want that on my conscience. So all they asked for was me to apologize to the family. And then I said, will this shit be done? Will you, we good after this? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, all right, well, I apologize to the family.
So I'd already said that I kind of understood where Kathy Griffin was coming from, why she decided to make the apology when she said that she was given credible reports that, someone could use her incident to somehow incite real world violence. Well, this is beyond that. What David Lucas is talking about. He's got real world threats against his real world family who he knows have a chance of meeting up with this real world threat. I don't know. That doesn't sound like a horrible trade-off to, say, okay, so if I just apologize to the family, this squashes everything. That doesn't sound like a horrible deal. I can definitely understand contemplating that. I can definitely understand, considering that option. And ultimately, this is the option that David Lucas took.
David Lucas, you know me from Kill Tony and other various roast shows. I'm an edgy, push the boundary comedian, and my job as a comedian is to bring humor in dire situations. With that being said, there's a clip that is circulating around social media, and since that clip has came out, I have spoken to a lot of George Floyd's family. I spoke to Cal Wayne, Trader Truth, Steven Jackson, and my intention was to never cause harm to his family or make them revisit a moment that happened a few years ago. I'm a father, so I get it. I understand how his kids feel. I've spoken to his whole family, and we've came, to an understanding as to how to move forward from this. And just want to apologize to his kids and everybody who was close to him.
So that completely makes sense to me. He seems to be saying the motivation it is to squash this beef, and if it's only to apologize to the family, that doesn't sound like it's a bridge too far. It sounds like it's completely understandable to then keep your family, your loved ones safe, that it's going to stop this potential beef that will happen in the streets. I don't know. It makes sense to me. It seems like a small token that you could give the other side to, prevent something that doesn't have to needlessly turn violent. Again, it's that real world violence.
They tried to get me to apologize for the joke, and I said I'm not. So I was like, if I gotta so I sent a video, and then they asked me to redo it. And I said I'm not redoing it, bro. Yeah. Like at this point, I feel like you're bullying me.
Yeah.
And if I feel like you're bullying me, then we're gonna handle things that way. So either you take this and leave me the fuck alone,
like you promised,
right? Or we can do what we got to do.
There were some other comedians who kind of saw this apology and thought that this is actually a detriment to all comedians. So here's kind of an opposing view to what David Lucas decided.
So I tweeted this out. Please read the whole thing. David Lucas apologized for making a George Floyd joke on stage. This, as always, sets the dangerous precedent of giving the cancel mob a win and empowers them to move the goalposts further for what is acceptable speech. So much that eventually we won't be able to breathe. Like a knee to the, I should have said neck, like a knee to the throat that chokes the life out of comedy. Their threats are just that, threats, like holding a gun to the stomach of a pregnant woman. Jokes, unlike fentanyl, never kill or injure anyone. Any hurt from a joke is a counterfeit feeling. No individual or group is exempt from jokes. Offend everyone as often as possible. And you can see from some of the comments here, I was defending him before. Now he's pathetic. Like, I understand why he did it. I think that he was basically given is a shakedown situation. I think this was like a mafia style shakedown.
I am a huge fan of Chrissy Mayer as well. I'm not the biggest fan of this take from her, though, that no apology can ever happen. I don't know. So she is later going to say that she kind of understands the situation and she does kind of explain it, but it does seem like it is a mafia-esque, request that cannot be refused, so to speak. That, it is a threat that somebody in your family is going to be harmed because of this joke that you said. I don't know. So Chrissy is saying that, no joke has caused real world harm. You're right. Those words themselves didn't, but it can cause, feelings of hatred or, someone getting angry. And then that can turn into some real world beef. And sadly, that's what this turned out to be, where there was this real world threat that did seem legitimate. And it was to his family who is in the streets. On top of that, he did have somebody harassing his mother and trying to get her to say specific things on phone calls and basically denounce her son. It is, I could understand from his point of view that these threats seem legit and they seem real, and they're having real world impact on him and possibly his family as well.
It's really easy for people to say you should never apologize. And that is true in the context of if it's the online mob coming for you they're not going to be happy with that apology, and they will take that apology and hold it over your head to show that you did something wrong. But if it's someone who's part of a negotiation,
right,
and they're like, we got beef, and if you just say you're sorry, everything could be quashed. Again, coming from Russian culture, sometimes you just bend the knee because it's like, first of all, it's not worth it. And also, you are sorry. If you're this upset over some stupid comment I said once, I'll apologize because I don't want you to be this upset.
The mistake is trying.
Michael Malice said that really eloquently. Yeah, I tried to word it and it was just way clumsier than the way that he just said it. But yeah, that doesn't seem like the biggest, I don't know, ask of somebody if you're going to literally apologize again for just if you made their family feel a certain way. That seems very empathetic, and that seems like a very small ask to stop potential real world harm to your family. That doesn't mean that he's apologizing for the joke, and it doesn't mean that he's not a champion of comedy. He apologized for literally, okay, I didn't intend it to actually hurt your family. If that did hurt your family's feelings, I'm sorry. That seems like a very reasonable ask, but Chrissy Mayer does go a little bit further. And
Trying to have it both ways. You cannot apologize at all, even a little bit, and still maintain. It's like you either become, I'm sorry to say it, like a literal slave to these activists, or you stand for your values and for free speech and you go, no, I'm sorry, it was a fucking joke. A joke is not a personal insult, and if you take it that way, that's a you problem.
I do understand Chrissy's hardline stance of never apologize for a joke. I feel like she is being a little close-minded and a little black and white thinking, the all or nothingness of it, that this apology is apologizing for a joke, where I don't see David Lucas as apologizing for a joke in this particular one, but instead apologizing if he made their family feel a certain way. That to me makes sense. It's not saying, hey, I regret telling this joke, I never should have done this. Instead, it's just saying, yeah, my intention wasn't to hurt you with it. It was to make people laugh in this room. I don't think that is a bridge too far, but I can definitely respect why Chrissy would say that and why she is fighting for free speech absolutism. I completely get it. I do understand the whole, I guess, South Park mentality of, everything's acceptable or nothing's acceptable. You do have to keep fighting for everything, even the most offensive. I totally understand that. And, any joke I am going to definitely champion. But I think there are certain situations that do kind of require an apology.
I'll never apologize for a joke.
But you're apologizing for like upsetting people who didn't deserve to be upset. So I think that's
in the
fair.
thing, all I did was I said, because I took it down, because after I posted it, I said, hey, man, I told her, I said, I'm really not feeling this.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I said, so if you want it, you can post it, but this shit coming off my page.
Okay.
And that's going to be that. And I'm done with it. Like, don't contact me no more. Don't call me. Don't DM me. Nothing. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to be associated with you. I don't need to see you, shake your hand. We can't kick it after this. None of that shit. So by that time, all the media outlets had screenshotted it.
Sure, of course. You know how that works. You knew that would
put
happen.
it out. But I think in the video I said, I apologize to George Floyd family and his kids for making them feel any type of way.
Yeah, that's fair though. Mm-hmm. You were there to go after the heckler. You're not going after his family. I really don't like it. When people on the internet are like, when they're not in your shoes, it's very easy to be like, stand up for yourself. There's times when you have to be like, all right, just take a little bit.
I'm an adult with kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Bro, y'all can kiss my ass.
Well said.
So I guess after looking at all of this, what conclusion did I come to? Should a comedian apologize? It's going to be very individual for them. I would say no if it's for a joke, but I guess Michael Richards counts as a comedian. Should he have apologized for what he did? Hell yeah. Like, that is just beyond the pale. He just did racism that, even by his own explanation, was due to his anger and his rage. That's fucked up. And there was nothing funny about it. There was no joke in that. Should, Tony Hinchcliffe apologize for essentially his opener was doing a bunch of like rather mean jokes towards white people. So he came out and he did some mean jokes towards the Asian guy who was opening for him. Should he apologize for that? I'd say no. You're in a comedy club. But he mentioned himself, he does think that he should apologize if he actually did that to, like, say, a cab driver or something. And, you know, I don't disagree with him. I think that's when you get like that Michael Richards type situation. So then we come to someone like Shane. You know, I can understand why he made a statement. He is working for a company. They're requiring something of him. You know, that makes sense to me. The Kathy Griffin one, it really doesn't make sense to me. You know, she didn't handle that like the David Lucas one, or like Roseanne handled it, where Roseanne just stuck to her guns and then actually went the extra mile and explained the joke and how many levels it's working on. It doesn't seem like Kathy Griffin had a bunch of levels to this joke. Instead, it was just supposed to be something controversial. So yeah, she instantly regretted it and then said she wishes she didn't do it. It's not funny. It's way over the line. She wishes she could bring it back, and you know, she's going to get it deleted off of the internet. That just seems like you're completely saying that you were wrong and you admitted that you did something horrible. Where someone like David Lucas's apology, it is literally just apologizing to the actual family and saying, you know, this wasn't intended to make you feel a certain way. So if it is, I'm sorry. I think that type of apology, and, you know, one that you would make on behalf of a company, if you're employed by them, yeah, that kind of makes sense to me. But if you're going to actually say, like, this joke went too far, I was horrible for doing it, I think you're going to undercut a lot of comedy. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for sticking around. Wow, this is rather impressive that you made it to the end of this video. But yeah, I spent way too long looking into comedian apologies. And now it looks like you've spent way too long listening.